Okay, a very good morning, everybody, from the simulator once again. I hesitate to say from the flight deck because today we don't really have much of a flight deck. Hello, everybody. It's been a little while since we've done a stream, and today we're taking a break, a between-season break from my pilot's life career, and we're getting back down into the basics. We're going low. We're going slow, and slow being a relative term to the Airbus because the Bonanza does have some kick to it. But today we're going to do a bush tour, everybody. Welcome back to another bush tour. Haven't done one of these for a while. I do like them. I think there's just a fun adventure to them. They are. They're like a puzzle, a scavenger hunt almost. At least that's how I certainly feel about them. Trying to use this textual description to navigate this specifically assigned route. So I've always enjoyed doing these. I think they're a lot of fun, and I'm happy to do one with you guys once again. So let me just put myself on there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live stream. And yeah, so as you can see up here, up there somewhere, today we are doing the Discover Norway Bush Trip. This one looked like it was a lot of fun, and of course, it seemed fitting with the theme of my pilot's life career being currently not stuck, but currently working for Scandinavian Airlines, SAS. So why not fly the fjords of Norway? So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask in advance for forgiveness for my probably terrible pronunciation of certain Norwegian place names. I will do my best, but I am not claiming to know how to pronounce these. I don't have any friends from Norway right now that I know of anyway. So I'm just trying to do these as best I know how, and I'm probably gonna butcher at least a few of them, and it's not intentional. I apologize. I'm not trying to be culturally insensitive. I honestly don't know, and I don't have anyone really to directly ask. So anyways, it's a bit of a long tour. If you look down here just above my head here, you'll see it does say it's 1,200 miles, 7 hours, 14 legs. So about a half an hour per leg. So we could definitely get a couple of legs done each time. I'm hoping to do four or five-ish legs today. Try and divide this into about a third. Try and do this in over about 3 episodes. Fortunately, the Bonanza is a mover. I have flown the Bonanza, not the G36. I flew the F33 version, but the Bonanza is a mover. It's an airplane. I flew it a very long time ago. It's an airplane with a big engine pulling not a whole lot of airplane through the sky, so it can move pretty fast when you want to. So we should hopefully be able to cover off these distances pretty quickly. As you can see on the right side, we are on leg number 1. Today we're going from Gardermoen to Gullnap. And we are going to be flying 133 miles in about 45 minutes. So anyways, yeah, without too much further ado, let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Hopefully this works. I did a little practice session just a little earlier, and it's been a bit of a comedy of errors trying to get this thing going. The engine failed on it as soon as the sim loaded in, and I couldn't figure out how to get the engine to start again. Everything is working that should be working. Fuel's on, tanks are on, mixture's rich, everything's going. I could not seem to get the restart, so I'm hoping that that does not occur this time. Hopefully, once we get here, we'll have a good engine that'll keep on running. I've got my mixture up already, so it won't quit on me when I get in the airplane. And well, isn't that helpful? Come on, do it. There we go. I think I know what I forgot to do. Now, is it making any sound at all? Because it sounds super quiet to me. And it doesn't help that my volume on my headphones is all the way down. All right, hopefully that's an appropriate volume. We'll see how that works as we go here. I'm going to get rid of the VFR map because I don't like to use the VFR map. I just like to use these text descriptions and figure out how to get from point A to point B using nothing more than this description compiled by some lowly employee at Asovo. Again, 133 miles. We've got timers everywhere. The other thing I'm going to do at the same time is zoom the map way in because I don't want to see that pink line on the map. I really don't. I might even consider turning off the MFD or bringing up even a different page just to sort of help avoid the distraction there. But anyway, so we're going to start off with taking off from Oslo Airport and heading south-southeast for 18.8 nautical miles, and you'll fly over Intility Arena, a beautiful modern sports stadium. So 203 heading for 6 minutes and 23 seconds. So we should have a timer here. There we go. So we do have a timer on here. We can start it whenever we want. I think I just have to go here do that. It's a very awkward way to start a timer. It really is. But all right, so what we'll do is we'll take off. We'll start the timer once we get airborne, and we'll pre-select a heading of 203 on the heading bug here, just so we have a reference point. So it's kind of just a little bit left. And again, so there's heading 203. I feel like I might even just get rid of, there we go. Get rid of the pink line on the HSI. And we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way, my friends. All right, so we'll climb up to, I guess, probably about 3,500 feet. Should probably work as an altitude if I can. Remember how to adjust the altitude on this here. Oh, really? The moving map and everything? I don't want to see that. PFT options. Pathways off. Thank you. All right, there are ways to do things. You just got to know how to do it. All right, so 3,500 seems like a good VFR altitude here. We've got the takeoff flaps. Make sure we got lights are on, looking good. All right, away we go with our good old Bonanza. Definitely a change from the low and slow days of airline flying. And the other nice thing about the Bonanza is, of course, retractable gear, which is not turned on. Funny. Well, we'll retract it that way then. All right, VY is 100 knots, so we're going to try and climb out at 100 knots here. All right, and as we come through 1,000 feet, we'll retract the flaps. And we'll reduce the power to 25 square. 2,500 RPM, 25 inches is the normal power, climb power setting of a Bonanza. So there we go, 25 inches. Climb it to 3,500. I'm going to start the timer now. There it goes. We're looking for 6 minutes and 23 seconds. All right, so there's the 203 heading. Going to try and keep this climb going pretty quickly and effectively at 100 knots up until we get to that 3,500 cruise altitude. Why did this not go up? I thought we triggered up, but did not go up. Always check that your actions had the intended impact. An important lesson of aviation as well. If you select gear up, make sure the gear comes up. If you select flaps up, make sure the flap comes up. Wow. Just trying to maintain the airspeed, trying to trim it, and using a cheap yoke, it shows. It really does show. All right, let me just get us up there. I'm going to just minimize this now. 6 minutes and 23 seconds is what we're looking for. Just so we can kind of see a little bit better, because we don't have a whole lot of great forward visibility in the climb in the Bonanza. It's got a big nose. It's a big engine up front, so it has a really big nose cowl. All right, here comes 3,500. What you'll notice, too, of interest, if you haven't noticed this before about engines with a constant speed RPM, is that as you go up, the manifold pressure falls. You have to constantly be increasing manifold pressure. So I'm going to bring the manifold pressure back here a little bit to 23 and 23. So 23 squared is typically considered a cruise power setting in the Bonanza. At least it was in the F-33 days. I'm not sure 100% that it applies to the F-36, but the G-36, but we're going to try and work with it anyways here. So 3,500 feet, heading of 203. We're looking for a sports stadium. As you can see, we're still accelerating. We should hit a true airspeed of about 160 knots at 23 squared in a Bonanza, give or take a couple of knots, but that should be where we're hitting. But yeah, as you can see, the forward visibility is not too bad once you kind of get the nose down, but trying to see up ahead in the climb is almost impossible. You just got to kind of look out the side window here. That's the problem with the low wing aircraft, is that it's not always great as a sightseeing aircraft because the wing is below you. It blocks what's beneath you, and you have a little bit of a harder time seeing what's down there. But all right, 6 minutes on this heading should take us to the sports stadium. Just trying my best to fly this without an autopilot today. I'd like to do it without the autopilot if I could. I think the autopilot is available, but I would rather do the work myself. I think it's fun. It puts you in the loop of the airplane. It is a lot more work, but it really puts you in the loop. The airplane is not just doing its own thing, and you're not paying attention to what it's doing. It's like driving a manual transmission car. It's like if you're flying an airplane without an autopilot, you have to know what the airplane's doing all the time. All right, so we're up to 3 minutes there. So we're about halfway to this stadium. So I see a couple things up ahead that could be a stadium. There's kind of some lighter patches way near the horizon. There's a couple things a little closer in too. Hopefully it'll be fairly obvious. It might take a little longer than the 6 minutes because we're still climbing for the initial part of this leg. So we got to kind of accept that we had not reached cruise speed for the first probably minute or so of this leg. So we probably actually, it's going to be closer to 7 minutes than 6, I would expect. But nevertheless, here we are again, and beautiful terrain out here. Lots of trees, and we're getting into a little bit of farmlandy area as we kind of approach the urban area. And we kind of took off from Oslo heading southbound, so I'm not sure if this is Oslo itself. My Norwegian geography is not great, I'll be honest. And it's funny, because I remember now that I did do a project on Norway when I was in like 5th grade or something like that. And we even made like a 3D map of Norway out of like, it wasn't even like paper mache, it was just like dough that we kind of shaped to resemble the mountainous spine of Norway. I don't know why I suddenly remember that. All right, that could be the stadium there. So I see a couple things out there that could be a stadium. There's one right in front of the nose there, just right in front of the nose. There's also another one a little bit to the left there. We'll see what looks like a stadium when we get a little closer. And while we're looking for it, we're also looking at the Oslo Opera House. Just to the southwest, you'll pass the Oslo Opera House, home of the Norwegian National Opera. So 2:43 for 35 seconds. So 2 miles further along. We are definitely hopping in a Bonanza, and that's the nice thing about flying this in Bonanza, why I sort of said this could be a really good, fun trip. All right, so where is this stadium? Because I do not know. There's a bunch of large buildings out here. I don't know which one is going to be the stadium. Nor do I know which one's going to be the Opera House. Royal Palace. Wow, we're just touring the whole thing. Turn to the northwest, you'll fly past the Royal Palace. I wonder if we should be like down a little lower to get a better tour of this. See, and I do not know. I don't see anything that looks like a stadium here. See a railway station. I might drop it down a little lower. I was going to stay at 3,500, but I might drop it down quite a bit here just to sort of get a little closer to these landmarks, since they want us to look at all these landmarks. All right, so we are coming up to 550, and we are probably a little bit far to the right, potentially, although we might also be to the left. I don't know where there's a stadium. Is that the stadium there? That could be the stadium there. This is a complicated one with like short little legs, and then after we hit the Royal Palace, then we really take off on a long leg. So it's really just a question of looking around, seeing if we could find this stadium. There's a sports track there. I wonder if this is the stadium here. I don't know what else to think. I don't see anything else that really looks like a stadium in here, unless I missed it or something somehow. No, look at it, look at it. There you go. Now as we come over it, now I see that is the stadium there. That is a nice looking stadium. We're kind of just drifting down a little bit just to sort of allow us a little bit better look. We'll go down to like 2,000 here. So it wants us to continue 2 miles southwest, 243. So let's get the 243 bug on there to find the Opera House. There's 243. All right, and so we stop, reset, start, and it's only 30 seconds of flying over the city here to find the Opera House. Could that be the Opera House there? Because I've gone a little bit too far on the coastline. That could very well be it. And then we turn 303 for the Royal Palace for 1 mile. I feel like that might be the Opera House there. I don't honestly know. I really don't honestly know. Your guess is as good as mine. It definitely looks like that's a what's it called? Like a custom structure. So let's go ahead and go 303 heading. Could that be the Royal Palace there? Why does the flaps keep going down? Why are we overspeeding the flaps by making the flaps go down? I didn't even touch anything, so I'm not sure what switch made that happen, but I feel like, okay, so that's a 303 heading right there. I'm going to just start pitching up a little bit more for the climb again, but I feel like this over here, just take it to the right a little bit. Sightseeing over Oslo. I feel like this could be the Royal Palace, potentially. Or it's a nice square anyways, I don't know. Maybe it's not the Royal Palace. I've lost track of where that was. I think that's it. Anyways. After the Royal Palace, then we go to the southwest, heading 232 for another 6 minutes. All right, so let's get back to our 232 heading, and let's start climbing again here. We really got low and slow here for our little sightseeing tour. 232, so I'm not sure if that was the Royal Palace itself. It certainly was in the right general location, or maybe that was the Royal Palace there we passed right over. In which case, we're not starting this from a very good location, but let's see if we can figure this out. We got to find Drammen next, so I'm going to try and climb at 25 squared again here. But what I'm going to try and do is do a real cruise climb at close to 160 knots. Going to be a very slow, laborious climb, but that way our timing works a little better as we try to figure out where Drammen is. Fun little bit of sightseeing over Oslo. That airport is actually a fair bit away. Was that like 18, 20 miles out of the city? But look at the land, look at the country here. Trying to find 2 or 3 miles of flat terrain around here, obviously, is a bit of a challenge. So can't fault them for building the airport where they did. It was probably the best location. All right, so we're going to try and get close to cruise speed here quickly and go up to 3,500 feet again, so we get a little bit of a lay of the land. Flying heading 232. $150 knots is not bad. It's close to what our cruise speed is, so we're not too bad. Hopefully 3,500 will be sufficient altitude. It looks like in the distance we may need to climb higher than 3,500. All right, here is 3,500. Don't overdo the trim. There we go. We got 23 squared, give or take. Whoa. Looking at one thing for a second, and away goes the airplane. All right, not too bad. Not too bad. Leveled out pretty well there. We're on the 232 heading. 6 minutes, we're looking for Drammen, which I assume is some kind of a town. The port city of Drammen, which boasts a number of spectacular buildings and is set amid a dramatic natural setting. Okay. Hopefully we just don't hit a mountain on the way there. 3,500 looks fine right now because I'm pretty sure this is the very northern tip of the ocean inlet here. So I'm pretty sure that's sea level, but there's some higher terrain up ahead. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to keep 35 for now if I can actually maintain altitude. There we go. There is some nice looking scenery out there too. I might just move this down just a little further away because when I actually try to take a picture later, a snapshot for the title card. And I would love this title card snapshot except for the fact that all this stuff gets drawn on the HUD and I can't do anything about it. which is the other problem, because you can't change most of the settings during any of the activities, bush flights and whatnot, which is a bit frustrating sometimes. The one thing that does work in the bush flight is chase plane. I am using chase plane, and it does still kind of work in the bush flight, but most other things do not work in the bush flight. It's a little frustrating sometimes. And I get it. I get that you don't want to allow too many mods because you don't want it to be unfair. You want the bush flight to be what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want it to be unfair. You want the bush flight to be challenging in its own right. But at the same time, like, there's some mods that don't necessarily change the effectiveness. They just change how you interact with the sim in a way. Just like chase plane. Like, it doesn't change how I fly the airplane or how I get from point A to point B, except that it just makes the way I interact with the sim, the way I look around, the way I can select various views a little easier. But I wouldn't say it gives you any kind of like an unnatural advantage during a push tour or anything. Okay, so we're coming up to 4.5 minutes. I wonder if this is Drammen over here. This definitely could be Drammen. If that thing that I saw kind of behind our shoulder was the Royal Palace, then the proper track was probably off to our left about a mile or so, which, based on the timing as well, would put this at Drammen. Would make this Drammen here. So I feel like this is it. It does look like very spectacular scenery. It does look like a bit of a port city. I think I might just go take a look over at it here. Norsjö. Continue for 39 miles to Norsjö, a long, slender lake surrounded by a lush forest. Ooh, fancy. I think this is Drammen. I don't see too many other port-type cities. This looks like a port city to me here. Because the other thing, of course, is that the ocean does not come much further in. It's obviously kind of peters out into a little bit of a river here. Losing altitude while I'm not paying attention, while I'm looking out the window. So based on the timing as well, this seems to be about right for Drammen. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is probably the bustling port city of Drammen, and then we'll reset ourselves from here. All right, so the next one was 211, I believe. 211 for 13 minutes. So let's go ahead and pre-select a heading of 211. Just for reference, but that's the only reference I allow myself. Otherwise, no autopilot. Just looking out the window. This has got to be Drammen. It looks like a pretty decent-sized little city. Looks like it's just farmland when you go inland, so this is probably it here. So, and as a reinforcement, I saw the pink scroll through there. I did not want to necessarily see it, but I saw it. So, let's go ahead and set up a heading of 211. Reset the timer, and this time we're doing 13 minutes and 16 seconds on the heading of 211. Now, I worry about 3,500 as a cruise altitude as we head southwestbound here. It looks like it might not hold out for us. So I think what we'll do is we'll try to just maintain speed 154 indicated. And again, we're going to go to a climb power setting of 25 squared. But we're going to try and do it as a very gentle cruise climb without bleeding off any speed, just a couple hundred feet per minute. And the digital gauge can make you absolutely obsessive about trying to hit that 2,500 exactly. Yeah, 200, 300 feet per minute, that's fine. We're going to go up to about 55, maybe even 4,500, 5,500. See if we can get over this ridge here, because it does look a little taller. So there's more ocean over there, but I definitely don't see any towns or cities. That was definitely Drammen behind us. So as we go higher and higher, you'll notice that even though I haven't touched the throttle at all, you'll notice that the manifold pressure does slowly drop. And this is, of course, because it's dropping air pressure as we go up. So the throttle basically is constricting the airflow into the engine. The air would like to suck as much air as possible, run as fast as possible, and the throttle constricts that flow. So as long as I have the throttle at the same setting, as the air pressure drops as we go up, that manifold pressure is going to drop. In order to keep 25 inches of air pressure flowing into the engine, I have to keep pushing up the throttle as we go higher and higher in order to maintain that until I get full throttle eventually. At some point around 5,000-6,000 in the Bonanza, you'll get full throttle, and you will not be able to get the manifold pressure to go any higher because that is the actual pressure of the air at that altitude. At sea level, it's about 30, 2992. At somewhere around 6,000-7,000 feet, you're going to reach 25 inches of outside air pressure. And so even if you open the throttle all the way, there's not possible to get more air pressure in there because that's the outside air pressure just forcing its way into the engine. All right, I think 4,500 is going to work as an altitude for now. So let's go ahead and level it off. Just bring the power back. Something else I was always taught about when you're flying a constant speed prop is that you want the prop speed to be adjusted to be the higher speed. So 23 squared, 25 squared are good rules of thumb, but when you're adjusting the throttle and the RPM to get to a new setting, if you're decreasing, you want to decrease the throttle first and then the RPM. If you're increasing, you want to increase the RPM first. So the RPM is always the higher of the two. It's either the last to be decreased or the first to be increased. That's the way I was always taught about it. There we go. Now we're making some progress here. We got 3 minutes. We got 10 more minutes to go just to get to the next village, which was called what? Norzio? Some long legs here. 38, 29, and eventually we'd land at Gullnap. But some very long legs here in the Bonanza, but it's got the legs for it. Look at this. It's got 170 knots true at altitude here. And what I haven't done at all is pull the mixture back just to maximize our fuel consumption here, or to minimize our fuel consumption. We've been burning off the right tank, so let's go ahead and switch to the left tank. And as I recall, we should have the fuel pump on. We'll do the switch just to ensure a solid amount of fuel. Keep it on for about 10 seconds. No hesitation in the engine. You can turn it off again. Just make sure that there is positive fuel flow to the engine for a couple seconds before you turn it back off again. There. I think we might have been okay at 35, but would have got a little close skimming those trees there. It is a beautiful country, though. Another place I would love to visit. It looks cool, perhaps for my taste. I mean, it probably in the summer, I'm sure it's fine. It looks beautifully green right now. Looks like Flight Simulator is fully into summer. Of course, this is a bush trip, so it's kind of pre-selected a certain day of the year anyways. But a place I would certainly not be averse to visiting. Wow, what a compliment. Not averse to visit. No, I would like to visit Norway. It has some absolutely beautiful dramatic scenery when we start to go up along the coast. So right now we're going southwest bound. We're kind of paralleling the coast from Oslo. We're going to go fly all the way around the coast of Norway, and eventually we're going to fly up the other side. As we start to fly over the western coast, it's going to be absolutely beautiful with fjords and everything everywhere. I'm very much looking forward to some of that scenery. Even here, it's beautiful, like these nice little mountain valleys carved through here. They look really good in the simulator as well. And it does look like it is quite nice here. So that is something that I'm looking forward to in the outside real world. Spring is trying hard to spring. It did it again. Why did the flaps go down again? What is making those flaps go down? There has got to be some key binding. What key binding is making those flaps go down? It could be a flap axis, but the axis I have mapped on the... Let me just check one more thing here. I can't reach over far enough. I'm going to try that. Okay. I wonder if that was it. I realized I thought I had disabled my Airbus yoke, but I realized that it was still at flaps 1, so I wonder if that was what was triggering it. Every once in a while it would suddenly kick in and realize that that was at flaps 1, and I think that may have been what was doing it. The trouble when you have so many peripherals. So right now I'm flying the piston, the piston single, so I've got my my Cytec yoke, my good old Cytec yoke, and my Bravo throttle quadrant. I've pushed my Airbus side stick and my Airbus throttle quadrant away, but I don't bother unplugging them most of the time. I don't want to wear out the plugs by plug and unplug them, so I simply just disable them in the simulator. I'm supposed to turned off all the axes supposedly, but I guess maybe the flap axis is not off in my disable profile. I thought it was, but I may have omitted it. Well, it's like you take your hands off the control, the airplane just wants to turn. All right, so we're at about 7 minutes. We're looking for 13 minutes. We're looking for the town of Norway. Hopefully we're holding this heading pretty precisely and accurately here to find it there, because there's not much else to, it's just a Norway, a long slender lake surrounded by lush forest, so hopefully that'll be fairly obvious when we get to it. And then we continue just a little bit of a right turn, and 26 miles further brings you to Solheimfjell Naturreservat. Solheimfjell Naturreservat, a nature reserve that comprises over a dozen mountains, including Solheimfjell, which stands at 2,149 feet above sea level. Okay, so it's not a huge mountain. At 4,500, we're not going to hit that, but we should be looking for a 2,100-foot mountain. Hopefully that'll be a fairly obvious landmark to spot. It truly is like a great way to see the world. Like in a small, light airplane, there's something unnerving, of course, about flying a piston after having flown reliable turbine engines for as long as I have, but there's just something nice about the low, slow, and, slow being a relative term. We're still doing 3 miles, almost 3 miles a minute here, 2.5 miles a minute. It's not exactly like we're standing still, but it feels like you could reach out there almost to touch those trees, like we're close enough to them. Not like in the bus where you're at 30,000 feet instead of 4,500 feet. All right, we're up to 9 minutes, another 4 minutes. We should spot a long, narrow lake surrounded by lush forests. And then continue straight ahead until we find the mountain. I see some kind of higher terrain off in the distance again, but 2,100 feet's not exactly going to be hard for us to clear. Even at 4,500 feet, though, the terrain is very, it's high enough, uneven enough that it's hard for us to see all that far away. So I feel like we're still getting the inherent challenge of trying to spot landmarks without being too far above or below. All right, so we got about 3 minutes to go here, give or take, till we spot our lake, and I might even be going faster than what is planned, but a long, narrow lake. So there's, yeah, as we come over this here, there's a long, narrow lake over here. Could be that one. I think we're actually going faster. This is the first bush trip, I think, where the airplane actually flies faster at the appropriate cruise speeds than the times that are planned here. There's no there's no speed given, and that's the one annoying thing about these bush trips. You kind of have to guess what a cruise speed is. I forgot there's a stopwatch on here. So there's a long narrow lake over here. That could well be it. There's another lake up there. It's not as long and narrow. Norway, a long, slender lake surrounded by lush forest. Well, there's definitely lush forest around this lake, if this is the one. And I'm kind of bearing a little bit off course here now, just to see. Over here, it's more farmland, so I don't think that's what we're looking for, unless there's another lake over here. This could be it. It's not particularly long, really. It's maybe a mile long. Unless it's over the next rise here. If it's this, it could be over the next rise here. Maybe that's it. I don't see anything off the left side that looks like a long, narrow, slender lake. We've been doing a pretty good job maintaining 211, so I wonder if it's just over this next hill here. So it's not this lake over here, but it's this lake up here. This I would term as a long, slender lake. This seems reasonable. Not doing a very good job maintaining altitude because we're kind of looking out the window and obsessing over our landmark here because we are coming up to landmark time. The Abyss Hunt, good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. We are just trying to make our way through Norway in our Bonanza on one of the MSFS Bush tours. So I always like the challenge because it's just like, it's literally just a text description. I think these are really neat. I really do think of them as a scavenger hunt. I think this is supposed to be North Joe Lake here. This is a long, slender lake surrounded by lush forest. I would buy that that's North Joe Lake there. So we'll reset the timer as we go over that. We'll be looking for a next heading of 229 to take us all the way to Solholmfjell Naturreservat. I am not Norwegian. I am not good at pronouncing these place names, but I would buy that this is the long, slender lake surrounded by lush forest. I would buy that. There's a little bit of farmland on the shore, but most of it is forested, so I'm going to buy that as say that this is our landmark here coming up. We'll reset the timer when we're overhead the lake, and we're looking for 39 more miles, or sorry, 26 more miles, so we're looking for another 8 minutes and 55 seconds. But really, like, I love it because it takes you back to some very basic flying skills of just like, here is heading, time, distance, you know, and get from point A to point B that way. Like in the GPS era, sometimes it's nice to go back and have a non-GPS day and remember that you can get around without a GPS. I've got kids who are approaching driving age, and I worry a little bit about their driving habits, mostly because like we live in an age where everybody relies on GPS to get everywhere. Literally, you want to go to the grocery store, people put their GPS on. It's like, you know, you need to have, the GPS is a fantastic tool. It's an absolutely wonderful, fantastic tool, but it shouldn't replace your own knowledge of your own town. You should know how to get around your own town, and I've been kind of quizzing my kids a little bit more over time, over the last year or so. It's like, okay, how do we get home from here? You know, like literally, I just want to see that they understand, that they know, because like it's so easy. You get in a car, but if you know, as a passenger, you put your head down, you stare at your phone, as everybody is wont to do from time to time. All right. Here is the 229 track, reset the time, and start again for another 8 minutes, 55 seconds. Yeah, so it's like very easy to really have no concept of where you're, of how to get around your own town, even on the most basic level. So I've been starting to quiz them more and more and tell them, you tell me how to get home. You know, you give me the directions, you tell me when and where to turn, just to sort of put them into that mindset of knowing how to navigate their own town without a GPS, just being familiar with your own town. Doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to know every road, but you should understand how to get home, or how to get to basic places, like how to get to the store, how to get to school by going around your own town. And like I said, GPS is a great tool, especially if you're somewhere where you're not familiar with, or you're going somewhere you're not familiar with. It's a great tool, but you should also have some familiarity in your own town over how to get around. So that's what I'm trying to do here right now. It's just sort of like live that non-GPS lifestyle. There's a moving map, but I've zoomed it into the maximum zoom, so I can't really get any situational awareness at all from that moving map. I am relying on my skills as a pilot, as a navigator, to hold the required heading and work with timings to try and find what I'm looking for. So even as we already come up this way, I'm seeing a little mountainy kind of thing over there. Maybe that's it. There's a little higher terrain there as well. I'm not sure which one we're looking for. So the nature reserve comprises over a dozen mountains, including Solholmfjell, which stands 2149 feet. And then we kind of break off to the south. And we're looking eventually for the Arendal Airport at Gullnap. The trouble with Solholmfjell Naturreservat is that it's a large area. Even lakes are not always great waypoints. They're easy to spot, but in terms of getting your fix from a specific point on the lake, the descriptions here are so vague. It's like, just overfly that lake. Well, the lake is, 4 miles, 5 miles long. Like, which point on the lake should I overfly and start my next leg from? Likewise, oh, flying over a nature reserve. Okay, well, that's great, but where in the nature reserve am I flying over? Where does my next point start? Like, sometimes you need a little more precision. It's a town or a city is often you lose a little bit of a better landmark. So we're gonna have to see how this works out as we continue. Come on, keep wings level. So we need 9 minutes to get to our next waypoint here. It's definitely kind of a mountainy thing just on the left side of the panel here. There's definitely some mountainy stuff coming up here, so this might be the nature reserve. I don't see which of this is necessarily the tallest mountain here. But at 4,500 feet, if the highest peak is 2,100, or at least the famous one is 2,100, we should be able to get over all of this. And you can see we're kind of parallel to the shoreline still as we head southwestbound. You can still see the North Sea over there. And I don't even know where this airport is. I really did no research ahead of time. And that's kind of how, like I said, that's kind of how I like it. This is a discovery flight, but it's also just prove my own ability to navigate based on time, bearing, distance. That's what we're trying to do here. So definitely finding, it's a good thing our second last waypoint is a village. And then we have to find this airport. I feel like this is going to be a challenge because like I feel like these two waypoints in a row here, Nordsjö and Solholmfjell Naturreservat, I'm not sure how to emphasize it, are just such wide areas that it's hard to get a firm fixage of exactly where I should be according to this plan. It's just going to be very vague. All right, there's definitely, yeah, these are definitely some kind of mountainy areas coming up here. I think we're going to be okay at 4,500 to clear it all. We're about halfway to the Naturreservat. And then we kind of take a big steer to the south to get to our next village fix. But this is going to be challenging because like these are two very wide waypoints in a row. This is going to be a bit challenging to figure this out. All right. Almost evened up the fuel burn there, right and left. Not quite, but almost. Definitely have to be a little bit cognizant of it because you can only select one tank in a Bonanza. You can't feed from both tanks, so you have to kind of remember to switch tanks every 15 to 30 minutes. All right. I've been averaging the right heading. I kind of went a little bit left, a little bit right a couple times, but I've definitely been averaging the right heading more or less. Because my timings, I just wish, that's one thing I really wish for, because then you could really do it precisely, is there was a target time, there's target speed on this navlog. But there never is. And you're kind of left wondering, what is the speed that this navlog was calculated at? Because if you can come up with the speed, and you can maintain that speed accurately, your time should be very easy to get very precise. But my times, because I don't know what the speed variable is, my times are at best a approximation. Yeah, there's definitely some mountainy or terrain coming up here. It's very pretty. So we are looking for 8:55, right? 8 minutes and 55 seconds. I mean, I would build a nature reserve here. There ain't much else. There's definitely very little civilization, very little built-up areas, no farmland. Definitely a good place to have a nature reserve. Very little interference from mankind. So I think we're just going to go to about the 8:55 and then call it. Guess I'm all alone today. As we continue here now, starting to get slightly more tense. I'm just like, and just because I want to succeed. But it really is so vague. I definitely buy that we're somewhere, there is a nature reserve around here somewhere. I'm trying to find this village now after we take a sudden turn. So it's going to be a turn to a 175 for 24 miles, another 8 minutes and 14 seconds, and then that'll put us very close to the Arendelle Airport, 3.5 miles away. So hopefully it's something we can spot. This, it looks like a paved runway from somewhere fairly far away. I like that they provide a picture of the airport, so at least you know what the airport looks like. I think they've really done a nice job of sort of splitting the difference here, providing just enough information to make it very feasible to succeed without making it blazingly beaten over the head obvious. All right. Well, I'll buy that this is the nature reserve around here. Definitely looks like I said, like very lonely kind of part of the country, and that's okay. I'm sure the sound of our Bonanza screaming overhead is just doing wonders to the wildlife. I see a few things over here, so like I feel like at 4,500 we should be able to spot this airport from pretty far away, as long as it's not like, as long as we kind of line up with the runway a little bit somewhere, we should be able to spot it. So I'm definitely going to just take up the heading here. So let's pre-select here 175. See if we can spot this place once we make this turn here. So there's 855. So we're going to start the turn to a heading of 175. And then we'll restart the timer when we roll out. Because I don't know what else to do. It's hard to say that we are at the exact right spot over the nature reserve that we should be. So we're looking for a village in 8 minutes, nestled over lakes and such. All right, so there's the timer started again. I overshot the heading very slightly by 2 degrees, but we're back on heading. Hopefully we can find this village. So we're looking for, it is Brecka, a quaint village set amid forest, open fields, and enchanting lakes. Ooh. The enchantment will be, the thing that will be enchanting is if we can see an airport 3 miles away from Brecka. And just for reference, when we get to Brecka, the airport is back to the right, 235 for 3.5 miles. So just a little bit past the village of Brecka, a little bit past and to the right from our current trajectory. Okay. It's all going to come down to this. Do I know what I'm doing or not? If we can find this or not. Aye. It's nothing quite like flying over this 3D map of the world, though. It really is like to think back to where Flight Simulator came from. Like I started flying Microsoft Flight Simulator before it was Microsoft Flight Simulator, when it was still, I'm pretty sure it was still a Bruce Artwick project. FS4 was the first version of Flight Simulator I flew, and back then the graphics, it was so laughable. The ground was just simply a green polygon or perhaps a blue polygon of water, and the airports were usually just drawn on as just like white lines. It'd just be like a white rectangle drawn on there as a runway with maybe white dashes up the middle. Like most of the scenery was just drawn as like white lines on that green rectangle. It was laughable when you look at the capability of the systems we have in front of us now. I remember that though, like, and it was still good. Like it still got you some of the fun experiences of flying an airplane, looking out the window, still trying to navigate. They did have like highways drawn in white and towns drawn in white, so like you'd still try to navigate based on this stuff. It's crazy how far we've come. Like, and we've gotten to the point now where, like, I will say that I sometimes use this as a vacation prep tool. If I'm going to a place where I've never been before, it's an interesting way to get the lay of the land. So take a nice low, slow airplane, overfly the cities you're planning to visit, get a lay of the land, understand what the place looks like, what the geography looks like before you've ever gone there, and it's definitely very reasonable to do. I think the next step up from Flight Simulator would be like to be able to create a I hate I, to be able to create a driving simulator based on the Google Maps data and even like the Street View data to be able to realistically drive like entire cities you've never been to before using this level of satellite data. Like the amount of data we have about our planet now is just it's absolutely phenomenal when you start to think about it. The amount of data we have available to us now is just unthinkable a generation ago. Just absolutely unthinkable. We don't even know what to do with all the data. And this is a fantastic application of it, is creating this absolutely stunning flight simulators. Like previous generations, it was all handcrafted because it had to be. You had to put somebody had to come and put all the data in there and create airports by hand. You roll out taxiways by hand. I remember the flight at the FS4. What was it? It was the airport scenery editor. Was that it? ASE, I think. And literally, you could select runways with different markings on it and plop them on the scenery. No, that I guess wasn't for. Maybe it was for FS4. It was for FS4, FS5. But I remember doing that. You could drag out the taxiways. I remember that. Like, I remember so many of these things in the previous generations. It was a lot of hard work, and harnessing the power of computers and algorithms to translate this data. Like all these individual trees placed here, like nobody could come, and place all these trees. Like imagine how many trees are on the planet. If every programmer on the planet placed 1,000 trees, you'd still never come close to covering even a single country. But it gets to a point where you do need an algorithm to kind of get you past it, to smooth out everything. All right, we're about halfway there. Just trying to see if I can spot an airport. I'm almost looking backwards here to find Brecka by finding the airport first and then finding Brecka. See, and I do see like various villages. I don't see anything that really looks like an airport yet. Not sure if there's a village down there. I do see like a little bit of built up stuff off to the west here. I wonder if we're too far to the east. But I'm hoping that the airport will help lure us in as well. We'll provide a kind of a peek and something we can spot as a landmark, because villages are a dime a dozen. But airports, there are not that many airports in the world in general. Outside of the one country of America where they've built an airport on literally every square mile of America, I swear, has an airport on it. But most other countries in the world have not put that much, don't have that much aviation infrastructure. Although, as you spend time in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you get to realize that there are a lot of grass strips out there. And it's funny, it's one of those things I think one of the things I first was surprised about when I became a licensed pilot and actually started flying around was when you started looking around how many farmers. I live in a part of Canada where there's quite a lot of farmland. And the number of farmers who have just little grass strips on their own field. They just, you just need like 50-foot wide strip. You just cut the grass on it, level it out. You don't need to be very long if you got just a small airplane, 2,500 or 3,000 feet. But you start flying around, you start seeing these patterns everywhere, these runways everywhere, like so many farmers. Oh, we have really drifted off here. We have really drifted off, and that's not what I'm looking to do. Let me just do something here, because I just need to do that. Okay. All right. I know what I did wrong. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm kind of wandering a bit here. There's a village up here. That could be Brecka there. Brecka. Still looking for this airport, however. I really am wandering quite a bit now. Because I'm spending a lot of time outside here trying to spot an airport. That could be an airport. We are just about the right spot for Brecka here. That could be it there too. Because that looks like that could be an airport right there. That might be our destination. But I'm going to keep it at 4,500 for just another couple of moments here. I mean, quaint villages. So we're looking for this runway. Definitely carved out of the trees. I think that's it there, isn't it? Land at Arendal Airport, just the southwest of Brecka. I feel like that's the airport there, because we're at the 8:15, so we should be over Brecka right now. So I think that right there is the Arendal Airport. Arendal? Arendal. Yep. It definitely is the right shape. I don't see too many other airports around here. At 8:16, we should be right over it, and then off to the southwest, that's the airport. So I think that's it. I think we made it. I think we figured it out. I was getting a little concerned there, because the descriptions were just so vague. The last two places were so vague. All right, we are really high for a downwind here, so let's get the power way back here. And I forget what the flap speeds are on the Bonanza. It's 154 for approach flap, 112 for the landing flap. So 154 for approach flap. That's got to be it. That looks like it. So we're just going to go straight into a left downwind here. We do not know what the field elevation is. That's also going to be a mystery. But somewhere back here was the village of Brecka. I have to figure out exactly where it was. It's a bit of a rapid descent here. Your eardrums will be popping right now. So what we could do... I think we're okay. In the real world, your eardrums would be popping. You'd have to really kind of modulate your descent a lot more than that. But let's see if I can land a Bonanza. He laughed nervously. That looks like it, right? That looks like it. That's got to be it. All right. I really have no idea what the field elevation is there, so it's going to be kind of a guess. Don't want to get too low, but you don't want to be too high. All right, so let's go approach flaps, or takeoff flaps. Yeah, approach flaps, whatever you want to call. All right. Probably put the mixture back in. All right, somewhere right about there. Also a cute looking village over here. I do not remember the approach speed in the Bonanza. For some reason, 85 is kicking into my head, but I could be thinking of a different airplane too. It has been 25 years since I flew a Bonanza. All right, let's go gear down. I don't know why that's not linked, but it isn't. We are a little bit high still here, and a little bit fast. Let's get ourselves established on final, though, before I go for that final flap. Actually, we're not too bad here. All right, let's go landing flap. All right, I'm going to target 85. Not sure if that's an appropriate speed or not. I really do not recall well. Pretty sure I still have my Bonanza manual over in this library too. I just gotta go find it. we go. That wasn't too bad. Now, as I recall, the bush trip ends as soon as you stop the airplane. So what we're going to try to do is not stop, slow down. Spin the 180. She does not want a 180 very well here because it'll save your progress. It'll save where you are. So I kind of want to go back to a good parking spot without stopping, if I recall correctly. I haven't done a bush trip in a while. This looks like the right place, though. Looked like what was on the map. It was on the navlog, so hopefully that was it. Let's try it out and see. Just get just off the runway. Pick a good kind of spot to stop. Because as soon as I come to a full stop, it's going to... I think. Yes. There we go. Like completed. Nervous for a second. All right. 57 minutes. Okay, it took a little longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. 53 minutes, that's fine. All right, continue with the next leg. I think we're ready. Your aircraft has been refueled. Put my feet back on the brakes again here. All right, so once we're in the air, again, set a course to southwest, 31 nautical miles. So 10 minutes, you'll pass the Sparebanken Shore Arena on the shores of beautiful Toppdals Fjord. So let's go and get this show on the road because we got a long way to go. Let's get the flaps. Sorry, were they at approach? No, they were at down, right? So let's get the flaps back to approach. Yes, it kind of saves your state exactly as it was when you stopped moving. Refilled our tanks. Oh yeah, full fuel again. Good stuff. Good stuff. Not going to run out of gas. We'll like it. Sip of coffee. It's even got the timer is still going. That's funny. All right, so let's go down to the start of the runway here. Got the approach flap. Trim is just about neutral there. That looks good. All right, I wasn't too bad of a landing, though, I got to say. That's a little worried because I haven't landed a Bonanza in a while, but it actually looked pretty good. All right, here we go. Leg number 2, Norway Bush Tour. All right, positive rate, gear up. Targeting 100 knots. All right, coming up to about 1,000 feet. Let's get the flaps up. Let's get climb thrust. There we go. All right. And we're going to target 4,500 feet again, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a left turn. We're going to just try and pass right back overhead the field to set our heading here of 221. So heading... Heading 221 for 10 minutes and 26 seconds. So we'll use this time as we circle here to gain the altitude as well. Try to get close to cruise altitude by the time we get over there. Look at the manifold pressure falling about an inch every 1,000 feet. So we're going to just bump it back up to 25. Try and get one last kind of burst to get us as close as possible to our cruise altitude so we can set the timer in a reliable fashion here. Don't want to go less than VY, but definitely want to keep the climb going. Don't pitch down too far. So we're looking for 4,500 again. Just about to come overhead the airport, so I think what we'll do is we'll start the accelerating here. Start accelerating to our cruise speed of about 160 because we're going to start the timer here momentarily. Flaps are up, gear is up. And I think we're pretty much overhead the field right now, so let's go to that 221 heading, excuse me. Try and accelerate to a very cruise climb kind of deal here. There's 221. Okay, so we did one leg, so I proved I could still do it. Still remember how to fly an airplane even without all the fancy doodads and flight directors helping me out. All right, we're going to trade most of our climb rate now for speed to get us to the appropriate speed. Don't actually want to go down, but we just want to just... There we go. Got about 160 knots. There we go. And it's close enough. So we're looking for 10 minutes and 26 seconds for the Sperbankensor Arena. All right. Easy there, girl. Try to be a little bit more conscientious of the fuel tank selection. So what we'll do is we'll try to set it as soon as we level off in cruise. We'll try to switch tanks here because we burn a decent amount of... we haven't even burned all that much out of one tank yet. Getting to cruise here. Still losing manifold pressure though. Trying to keep that up. And eventually we're going to pass over Kristiansand, a renowned tourist destination in Norway. Yet I could not find a good payware airport for it. I was kind of going through potential, generating some potential schedules for the next season of A Pilot's Life, and Kristiansand came up as quite a few times as a potential destination, but I could not find any good scenery for it, so I had to kind of put it in the no pile. I've actually got a list. I started doing some investigating, and I've actually got a whole list of airports that I am willing to consider for the next season and not willing to consider for the next season. All right, 2,300. There we go, 23. 23 squared. Pull the mixture back a little bit as well. We start to see the power drop off, and then we're good. All right. Still on heading. 2.5 minutes in. Didn't take that long to get to this altitude. All right. And it's barely even moved off the stopper, but we'll do a fuel tank change now. So fuel pump on. Make sure you change the right direction. That's what happens when you don't. All right, so it looks like the Sperbankensor Arena is just on the outskirts of Kristiansand because it's only 2.5 miles, less than a minute to Kristiansand after we get there. Now we're seeing a little bit more coastline, experiencing the coastline a little bit more. Trying to find a trim setting that kind of holds this level because there's a part of me that would love to kind of spend the money on a proper force feedback yoke, because like the dead spot on the Cytec yoke is really quite substantial, and then you suddenly cross it and suddenly the thing starts shooting upwards. It's a very frustrating thing to try and trim an airplane gently using the most gentle hand motions with a what is a relatively cheap yoke. I will acknowledge it's a cheap yoke. It's definitely not an expensive yoke by any means. But because I don't fly GA as much now, because I started flying the Airbus a lot, the side stick I find, I'm happy to have a high quality side stick and a low quality yoke at this point, but add it to my list. Add to the list of things if I had infinite money I would want. But because the thing when you're flying an airplane, when you're flying a GA airplane especially, is that you fly it with 3 fingers. You fly it with 2 fingers and a thumb, and you hold it, and most of the time it's a gentle touch. Occasionally, like at rotation and things like that, you often need a little bit more muscle to perform the action. But in general, once you get into cruise, you're flying with 3 fingers. You're just the most gentle movements back and forth, pushing as little as possible. Well, not as little as possible, pushing very gently, because the faster you go, the more even a small deflection of the controls will cause a big input. So you tend to fly that way, but part of it is that you can feel the resistance. You can feel the air pushing against the controls while you're flying an airplane. And that's how you trim, is you feel that resistance. But with a spring-centered artificial plastic yoke, you don't get that feedback. You're just pushing against the spring, but the spring doesn't change, as the speed goes. So a force feedback yoke would be a game changer. And certainly I have people in my family that are contemplating learning how to fly, and not that you really want to learn how to fly from a flight simulator, because a flight simulator only does so much, and it can teach you some bad habits. It can absolutely teach you some bad habits, but it doesn't give you the feel. It doesn't give you the feel. Like, half of flying is in the seat of your pants. So when you're just sitting here in a desk chair staring at a screen, yeah, the screen's got like a realistic picture on it, but you're not feeling that motion. You're not feeling the airplane accelerate or move up and down. Like these altitude excursions, sometimes like you notice them in a real airplane long before you notice them in a simulator, because you don't have to. Your eyes don't tell you that the airplane's moved. Your butt tells you the airplane moved, and then you look up with your eyes and say, yes, oh, it did move, and you make the adjustment. Sometimes you can even make the adjustment before your eyes even register it. I know that flying when I was flying the Q400, and we used to have very turbulent approaches, before you'd ever register a speed decrease on a turbulent approach, you'd already be pushing in power, because your butt felt it. Your butt felt the speed decrease, your butt felt the airplane start to drop, and you're adding power long before the instruments show it, long before you see anything change on the airspeed or the altitude. You feel the change is coming. You feel the change has happened. You just haven't registered a change in terms of our trajectory yet. So to try and learn to fly an airplane without feelings, you'll go through the mechanics of it. You might understand it, but you won't learn how to fly. You need to be in a real airplane to learn how to fly, because without the feelings, without something kicking you in the butt constantly, without your sense of balance, your sense of motion, your sense of acceleration to tell you how the airplane's moving, you're only relying. 99% of what I'm doing right now is relying upon my eyes in front of me to pass me the information, and no other extra information is getting to your brain. But when you fly a real airplane, your sensory inputs increase your awareness. It's not that you're not looking, it's not that you're not using your eyes, but you're also adding to that sensory input, your sense of acceleration and touch and feel and all those things as well. And even the sound. Like flying around the same airplane for a long time, you start to listen to what it sounds like. You can set the power setting without ever looking at the gauge. You know what 2,300 RPM sounds like. You know what 2,500 RPM sounds like when you fly it for long enough. Now, I haven't flown this sort of thing for a very long time, but all right. But yeah, you use other senses. Flight simulators are, it's not to say that flight simulators don't have a great place, because flight simulators do allow you to do lots of good things. They allow you to definitely do procedural learning. You can do procedural learning in a realistic environment, so you can learn the procedures, you can press all the buttons, make things happen the way they're supposed to. You can learn how to navigate by looking out the window, by kind of correlating what you see on the ground to what you see in the air. It's definitely possible to do those things. There's no doubt about that. All right, so this must be Christensen right here. I just don't know where the arena is. How much time did I need to get to the arena? I need 10:26, so probably a little tiny bit longer than that. I'm just sort of going to wallow slightly from side to side looking for an arena, but this must be Christensen. I'm guessing it's more on the far side there of the river, because it looks like a slightly bigger community. This is the Mediterranean of Norway, I guess, the southernmost part of Norway. This is where it's the warmest. In the winter, it only gets slightly below 0. I laugh because I come from a country where winter is a big part of a big part of our year, a big part of who we are. So I can laugh at other cold countries because we are the same way. I wonder if that's it right there, just on the other side of the bridge, on the far shore there. Could that be an arena? It's hard to see here. So again, I've been bearing a little bit more to the right just to kind of put our target track off our side so I can kind of look out this little quadrant here and see. I don't know if that's an arena. Anyways, this is definitely Kristiansand. Fly southwest to Mandal, a wonderful town located at the mouth of the Mandal River. 245 for 554. So I'm going to pre-select 245 here. I don't know when we're going to reset this because I don't know where this arena is. I don't know if that's an arena. I see some large buildings. Oh, I think I see it there. I see it. I see it there. I guess again. Oh, there's a nice track field, but a little bit before that on this side, that's the arena there. I guarantee you that. It's like another football stadium there. You can see the football pitch just in the middle, right on the shoreline there, right beside the edge of the window there now. That's definitely it. That's definitely the stadium, and then Kristiansand just like a mile beyond it. Downtown Kristiansand, a mile beyond it. So we're not going to worry about the 51 seconds to Kristiansand. What we're going to worry about is the 5 minutes, 54 seconds, 6 minutes essentially to Mandal. At the mouth of the Mandal South. Now you can see the football stadium quite nicely there. Somebody spent a long time making nice football stadiums here at MSFS. Somebody's a football fan. Probably all the guys in the sub are football fans since it is based in Europe. The studio is based in Europe. They tend to be bigger football fans than certainly the North Americans anyways. Okay, so we're going to take up the 245 heading. And we're going to reset the timer. Just trying to level this out here. A little too far. All right, there's the timer again, because we're kind of over Kristiansand itself. And I can see a couple places down there, so Mandal's coming up at some point here. After Mandal, we go to Farsund. Lista, and Lista, so not even all that far to the airport this time. We'll see how this goes here, how long we can keep the stream up for. We've already been streaming for almost 90 minutes here. But yeah, this morning was a little bit of a comedy of errors, just trying to even get this stream going. I hadn't done a stream for a little while, but a different aircraft type, so the controls were not totally configured. And then, like I said, the engine quit on me as soon as I started loading up the sim, and I couldn't get to restart. And I reloaded the Bush Tour, and it seemed to work just fine after that, as you saw. But just a whole bunch of like little minor technical difficulties, but just like all sorts of things that I just wasn't quite ready for, I guess. And yeah, I because it's not like a full-on airline flight, because this is just like a fun little bush tour, a fun little lark, I don't put as much effort into the prep time, and maybe I need to go back to putting more effort into the prep time, because I end up being a little bit rushed at the end, rushing upstairs to get myself my cup of coffee at the last possible second before I came down here to actually go live on stream, because yeah, I wasn't quite ready for it. I wonder if that's Mandal right there. So we got 5 minutes. So this is not it here. It's only been about 2 minutes from out of Kristiansand, so it's definitely not this one. But I'm wondering if it's this next kind of built-up area. You see, there's kind of looks like a highway or something, or maybe even just a river that cuts through the forest there, and where it kind of meets the ocean again. That might be Mandal. But yeah, it's funny how you have those days where it's just a comedy of errors. And I did have a flight like that, like not too long ago, about a week or so ago, where it was just nothing seemed to want to get us to get this flight out on time. We just ended up with just so many individual maintenance items that kept coming up as after the airplane arrived, and I must have made 8 calls to maintenance for different issues, or clarifications on different issues. It was just like, it's one of those cases where like I just feel like the flight is just never going to go. And it's funny because like I've been watching the series Toronto Airport Uncovered. I don't know if any of you have seen this series. It's on National Geographic, but basically last year, yeah, the start of last year, kind of like January through to like April or May of last year, National Geographic came to the Toronto Airport and they spent, you know, weeks and months recording various incidents happening and kind of stitching it all together, but a lot of behind-the-scenes activity at Toronto Pearson, and just kind of neat to see it. Even as a person who works there myself, like I don't see all the aspects of it. Nobody who works there really sees all the aspects of what's going on at the airport. They see their specific kind of, they see their specific department, their specific job, but very few people really see it all. So even as someone who works there, it's interesting to see the other parts of this, airport. I'm learning things that exist at this airport I never knew about. There's things I knew about that I'd never seen in person, and then there's other parts of this airport that I just never even seen. Really, really neat series. If you're at all into aviation, it's really, really neat behind the scenes look at everything that happens in an airport, because there is a lot that goes on at an airport, and the average, you know, passenger does not see a fraction of the stuff that's going on, especially a major airport like Toronto. There's so many different companies, so many different departments, so many different job roles, so many different goals. I'm guessing this is Mandel here at the mouth of the river. It definitely looks like a good town at the mouth of the river. Very good, worthwhile series. I think it's 10 episodes. I think I'm on like episode 7 now. But yeah, just sort of going through all the sort of different job roles, from the airline operations control to the snow removal and de-icing, airfield maintenance, even security, even the last one they were dealing with mechanics and maintenance. They were talking about not just aircraft maintenance, but spent a bit of time talking to one of the ground service equipment mechanics, following him around on his day as he's constantly getting called to one location or another to fix a broken piece of equipment. When you've got an airport as big as Toronto with literally thousands upon thousands of different pieces of equipment, from tugs to tugs to de-icers, minivans and passenger vans running stuff around, belt loaders and cargo loaders and all these different things. So many different what am I trying to say here? So many different pieces of equipment. Like there's always something breaking down for one reason or another. Whether a battery runs out, whether a connection comes loose, something runs out of oil, or just simply luggage straps getting caught in baggage rollers. Like it's amazing the amount of. It's funny just to kind of watch it. Like this guy, it's just like they make him look like he's run ragged, and I guarantee you, on a normal day, he is. He's like, there's always somebody who needs him. Always something's broken, and somebody needs what they're doing fixed. Hey, UK, good morning and welcome. I think you are with me here just as we have reached Mandal. So this looks like the town. This looks like a wonderful town located at the mouth of the Mandal River. It does look like a wonderful town located at the mouth of the river. Look at the nice bridge that goes across the river there. It definitely looks like a very pretty place. All right, so from there we have to fly 273 west for 7 minutes and 14 seconds, 21 miles, to the city of Farson, which is probably like that next outcrop right there. But let's get 273 dialed in here. All right, there's 273. I'm going to restart the timer as we pass Mandal for Farsund. And I do kind of see like a built-up area along the coast again there, so I bet that's probably Farsund there. And then once we get to Farsund, 5.5 miles past Farsund to the Farsund airport and land to complete this leg. All right, yeah. So yeah, I feel like it's on this like last little outcrop before the coast begins to turn north. So we're at the southern tip of Norway here, and we're about to turn and start following it all the way north. Well, I hope life is treating you well, Hayden. I know it's still cold in Winnipeg, but I hope it's going to get warmer one of these days. No, sorry, you're not the one who lives in Winnipeg. My apologies. I'm thinking of Tom. Tom and GT lives in Winnipeg. My apologies. Yeah, you actually live in the UK, right? So we're actually not that far. Somewhere out here across the North Sea is the United Kingdom. We're on the colder side of the North Sea, no doubt. But hey, it looks beautiful out there today, right? And what are we saying here for temperatures outside right now? 6 degrees at 4,500 feet, which means it's probably a really nice day here in Norway, in Bush Trip land, which is just sort of a neutral, like always summer, near London. Okay. My apologies. I'm sorry I had you confused. My bad. I'm sorry. I hope the weather is nice today in London. It's been a bit of a chilly spring, and actually it's funny because like a week ago, Friday of last week was Good Friday, so of course the kids were off school, and we were lucky enough that here, at least in our part of Canada, we were blessed with an absolutely beautiful day. The temperature hit like 25 degrees on last Friday. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. The day started off cool. It started off, I think it was very close to 0 in the morning, but by the middle of the afternoon, it was 25 degrees. We were all outside. I was reading a book. I actually raked up the lawn a little bit. My kids dusted off their bikes and their scooters and went around the neighborhood. Absolutely gorgeous day. And then it went away. Starting about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, cold front moved in and the temperature just plummeted. It plummeted 5 degrees in the first hour and then plummeted like another 3 degrees in the next hour. So it went from like 25 degrees to 17, and by nightfall it was almost freezing again. So we just had this one day of absolutely beautiful warmth, and now spring has gone away and it's winter again in Canada. Not yesterday, but the day before, we had like 3 centimeters of snow. Very, very wet snow. But then it didn't even melt that first day. Even though it kind of got a little bit warm, it didn't melt because it wasn't quite warm enough. Especially on the shady sides of the hills and on the ditches, it was still snowy the next day. It was sad. 7 minutes and 14 seconds we're looking for. See, I feel like this is Farson coming up here, somewhere on this jut of land, and then the airport's going to be just beyond the city. So it feels like this spring is just it's really just sputtering into being, but it's really not giving a solid spring. And it's funny because it was actually not too bad in March. March started out really nice, and then it kind of deteriorated and got cool, almost cold again. And it's been kind of cold on and off ever since. But yeah, and we like so many people I've talked to have said the same thing. It's like after the winter we've had, we all just need spring. I don't know if it's the same thing in the UK, but in North America, certainly most of Canada, this winter felt brutal. It felt cold. It felt long. There was like record snow in multiple places. We just need winter to end, and it has not yet ended. We're waiting. We're waiting eagerly for it to end, but it just will not end. I'm looking forward to solid spring. It was so beautiful. Like I actually had shorts on for about 2 hours last Friday, and then the temperature started to plummet. I'm like, oh, actually, I'm cold again now. But I think it was probably because I worked up such a sweat rake in the lawn that I went inside, put shorts on for 2 hours, and then the temperature started to plummet. Like we had all the windows open to let the warm air in, air out our house a little bit, and then boom, take it all away again. All right, so I wonder if Farson is this, looks like there's a built-up area just kind of on the close side of this peninsula here, and then the airport will be beyond that. That's my guess, because the airport can't be out in the ocean, so it's got to be somewhere before we hit the end of land here. We're looking for what? 9 minutes, was it? 7 minutes. 7 minutes to Farson. So we're 4.5. Should be coming up there soon. And then what does the airport look like? Close to the coastline, parallel to the coastline, some fields and stuff. So it's probably just on like the far side of the peninsula here. I probably should start down actually soon here so we're not caught high again, making a really high catapulting approach down. So I think that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to take about 5 inches and try to maintain speed. So as I recall, and again, this is me stretching back 25 years, but as I recall, every inch of manifold pressure equates to a 100 foot per minute descent, so I'm not maintaining speed very well here. It should, so if I take 5 inches off, took us from 23 down to 18, I should be able to maintain about a 500 foot per minute descent at the same speed. So I feel like this is Farsund right here. There's definitely a built-up area on the near side, and then we just got to go a little bit past it, and somewhere on the other side of this island here will be our Farsund airport. But if we start down now, a few minutes earlier, we won't have to do quite as rapid descent as we did last time into the last airport. And then we're going to really start to get up and see the fjords as we start to follow this west coast as it wraps around. All right, so we're coming up to 7 minutes. There's no doubt that this is Farsund here. It's definitely a bit of a city-town thing going on here. I'm not sure if it's a city or a town, but definitely it. And we just got to find the airport, and it's right along the coast. So, I mean, we could just follow the coast and we'll find it. There is no doubt we'll find it if we just follow the coast. And continue to pull the manifold pressure off slowly and just slightly increase my mixture. I never did switch tanks again. Let's switch tanks one more time before we land. So this time we are going to try and put the left tank back on. There we go. All right, so where is this airport? There is no doubt that this is Farsund here. And the airport is somewhere along the coastline here. Is that it there? I think that might be it there. I think it's literally right in front of us. So let's see if we can just plunk down maybe a little faster here. Pull the power off a little more. Yeah, that's got to be it right there. So we're just going to kind of set ourselves straight up for a right base right here. So what I might do as well, 154, correct? 154. Throw the approach flaps down. Help increase our drag so that we can slow down. So far, so good. Taking me a little farther to get each leg done, a little longer to get each leg done than I targeted, but I think we'll have time for one more. I'm going to try and get at least one more leg done here before my butt falls asleep completely from sitting in this chair too long. All right, definitely maintaining a pretty solid descent rate here. Getting a little bumpy here. All right. Not quite yet. Just like another 10 seconds here, I think, and then we'll make this turn to final. We're definitely getting slower, which is good. All right. I think we're going to be okay here. And I'm going to assume this airport is pretty darn close to sea level here at this point. That's Farsund over there. This is Farsund Airport. Alright. Just peek in just a little closer. It's 1,000 feet above ground. It's probably a good time to consider gear down. That'll increase our drag quite substantially. But we need to start reducing to our final approach speed anyways, so let's do it. 85 seemed to work really well last time. Alright, so we're going to go flap full. I'm going to go ahead with mixture and prop full and adding power over the drag. We're targeting 85 knots. Trying to trim for a nice stable approach. It's looking pretty good. A little bit high, but Considering the length of the runway, this Bonanza will have no problem getting down there. A little bit slow and slow now, so let's add some power. Come on. It's always interesting about flight simulators, like flying airplane types you're not familiar with and trying to find the sweet spots for each aircraft type. Because every aircraft is different. If you fly it often enough, you'll learn it well. But when you kind of come into random airplanes like you do in Flight Simulator, and there's that. It's kind of all or nothing with a cheap plastic yoke. Alright, so in this case, we're going to taxi back for takeoff again. I think what we'll do is we'll just clear the runway and stop it here. Let's set the approach flaps again. Ba-doom. Nice. Bush trip, leg completed. All right, that was a little faster than last time, 34 minutes instead of 57. Still longer than it's supposed to be, I think, but we'll carry on. I definitely feel like we could do one more leg here. So here comes leg number 3 of the Norway bush trip. All right, so your aircraft has been refueled. Look at that. We got full tanks again. It's like magic. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. All right, so reset the timer. We've got approach flaps. We've got there's the green arc for takeoff. All right, and taxi back for takeoff again. All right, so Orsdalsvatnet Lake, Orsdalsvatnet Lake. Lift your Bonanza G36 into the sky and fly northwest for 35 miles to the long, narrow Orsdalsvatnet Lake. All right, so 341 heading. So we are definitely wrapping around to north again here. 341 heading. Too far. 341 heading. There we go. So this one is supposed to be 25 minutes to ENZV, 73 more miles. We are covering ground quickly in this Bonanza. Like, that's the kind of the fun thing. I was a little hesitant because it says it's a whole 7-hour trip along the whole coast of Norway, but for the distance you're traveling, it's great. But because this is a fast airplane, like, you cover a lot of ground in a Bonanza. It did used to have a morbid nickname back in the day. I wonder if anybody who's watching knows what the Bonanzas used to be called. They had a very morbid nickname once upon a time, back in the day of the V-tail Bonanza. All right. This is going to be one of those ones where we're going to do the straight out climbing leg because we're taking off in the correct direction. So we'll get to about 2,000 and then we'll switch to a cruise climb and try and get the timing right, more or less. All right. Nobody's coming in. I think we're good to go. The instinct in me says look both ways, even though I know I'm all alone in the simulator. I cannot not look both ways. Nice light wind out of the northwest. Okay, perfect. It's a nice big runway here at Farsund. I didn't even see where the airport was in Kristiansand. I'm surprised we didn't actually land there. Okay, we got the approach flaps, we got the trims reset, we got mixture and proper full, we got full tanks of gas, we're running on the left tank right now. I think we're good to go. All right. That looks like positive rate. Gear up. Maybe a little bit on the high side. Slowly work our way up to 100 knots. It's all or nothing with this yoke. It's just frustrating sometimes. Try to target a smooth input and boom, all of a sudden, bang, pitching down. All right. Here comes 1,000. We're gonna go flaps up. We're gonna get the manifold pressure back first and then the prop RPM. And just by listening to it, that's about 2,500. Yeah, that's 2,500. Like I said, like you get to know your airplanes very quickly when you fly them regularly. All right, so we're looking for a 345 heading. We kind of reached the end of the runway. I'm going to start the timer now. And we are going to accelerate here now. 345 or 341? Maybe it was 341. It was 341. My bad. All right, so there's 2,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it now into a cruise climb. Just to try and make the timing better. Take a moment to accelerate to that cruise climb. Trying to hold it at even 5 degrees, but yeah. And then all of a sudden you put a whole bunch of trim in and boom. Now it's not climbing at all. Until we accelerate and get the climb going again. Not bad. We're almost there. We're targeting about 150 knots. Should get us a reasonable true airspeed. Excuse me. We're getting close. And still climbing. We're going to target 4,500 again because that seemed to work pretty well. And there definitely is, again, higher terrain up ahead. That concerns me a little bit. Definitely need to be at least 3,500, if not 4,500 to make it over that. All right, so we are going for how long here? We're going for 35 miles, 11:48, almost basically 12 minutes to get to our next waypoint. Almost reached our target true airspeed of 160. Need to be just pitched down just a little more. Just a nice cruise climb here. I guess we can also add back that inch of manifold pressure as we climb every 1,000 feet. Maybe even start to get the mixture back a little bit. Save some gas. I find the mixture in MSFS doesn't have a terribly realistic impact on the flight though. Because what you should notice as you pull back the mixtures, you should initially notice an increase in power. The way most airplane engines are designed, they're designed to run on the rich side, so more fuel that is actually needed than actually can be burned in the engine. The idea being, of course, that more fuel is not necessarily a bad thing, and you'd rather err on that side with the fuel of having more fuel than too little. Because also extra fuel in the cylinders makes the cylinders run a little cooler. Ironically enough, if you have too much fuel, the engine actually runs cooler as you start to not starve the engine for fuel, but reduce it back to the ideal air-fuel mixture. You have less of this fuel evaporating in the cylinder. So liquid fuel doesn't burn; it has to be in a gaseous form, and so in order to do that, that's the whole job of the carburetor or the fuel injector is to transition that fuel from a liquid to a gas. However, in order to do that, as with any other substance, in order to go from a liquid to a gas, you need to add heat. So when you add heat to the fuel to transition it from a liquid to a gas, it cools the surrounding air and anything else that the fuel might be touching. So if you have more fuel condensing, your engine will actually be vaporizing more fuel. It will run cooler. So rich will burn a little bit more fuel than you should, but the engine will run cooler. So as you pull the mixture back and you kind of get to the perfect ideal 14:1 air to fuel ratio for combustion, then you'll have less of that. You'll have less wasted fuel. You'll have more air coming in and less fuel coming in, and you'll get that perfect ratio that you'll actually see the power increase. And that's kind of what you're looking for when you pull the mixture back, is you're looking to get that ideal, that increase in power. I find that MSFS, you don't see much of an increase in power. The fuel flow decreases, but it doesn't seem to do much. Eventually, at some point, you get too little fuel. You get too little fuel, too much air going in, and you start to lose combustion in that sense. But I find that MSFS, you can pull the mixture back all you want. It doesn't really result in a power increase. All right, there's 23. All right, still doing good on the heading time. We're at about 4:41. We got to get to 12 minutes, so we got to get over all these mountains here. Let's see, as I pull this mixture back even more. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Staring at the wrong thing there. Very slight increase in manifold pressure. But that could also just be from the fact that I went down 100 feet. Until all of a sudden you get to the point where it starts decreasing, where the power starts decreasing a lot, but the increase never seems to be there. All right, let's get the altitude back here. We kind of lost it while we were paying attention to the mixture there. A little bumpy on this one here. But yeah, that's what I find, is that the mixture, it reduces fuel consumption, but it does not seem to increase engine power, and it should, especially when you get to higher altitudes. The whole reason why the mixture control exists is to kind of allow you to optimize fuel flow for anything that isn't sea level. That's the idea behind having a mixture control, is why a car doesn't generally need one, is because you're always operating basically close to sea level in a car. Whereas in an airplane, you regularly are decreasing the outside air pressure. Having a little hard time trimming this today here. So especially as you get to 4,000 or 5,000 feet, bringing the mixture back should definitely increase power initially, but it doesn't. And that's one place where MSFS has really fallen down. For all the other realism, I find that the mixture control is just like, it's a joke. It reduces the fuel consumption, but doesn't really do anything to engine power until all of a sudden you have way too little, and does eventually starve it of fuel. But at the other end of the spectrum, it doesn't really represent a full, rich mixture very well. Okay, so we're a little bit more than halfway to our lake here. This looks like a very developed section of Norway down here. Definitely there's a few roads and stuff coming up and down the coastline here, but I think we kind of got it trimmed now, more or less. It's funny because, like, as we're transitioning northwards here, and the terrain looks like it kind of slowly rises to meet us, very slowly. It reminds me of the story of of a bomber that was crossing Greenland one time, and one of those overcast days, and you get this a lot in Greenland because it's an overcast day, and it's all white snow below. As you cross the middle of the island, it's all glaciers and snow. So as there is this, legend, might not be real, but kind of urban aviation legend of a bomber crew that was crossing, and they couldn't see a horizon at all. They're just flying on instruments. This is World War II or whatever, but flying on instruments because it was a dull, overcast day, white snow below. There was no discernible horizon. It's just white above, white below, and no way to really tell where the ground is. And the story is that as the land in the glaciers of Greenland slope up kind of into the middle, it's a very gradual slope, It does peak at a pretty high elevation. I think it's like 14,000 or something is the highest peak in the middle of Greenland, or 12,000 or something. It's quite high. But as they're cruising along at cruise power, all of a sudden, one of the guys looks out the window and sees the airplane's shadow on the snow. And they look behind them and they realize that they have actually landed in the snow, and nobody even realized it because it was such a soft impact. The snow was very soft, very, very fluffy, and so gradually did this airplane come down into the snow that it just gradually dragged itself to a stop with the engine still turning. Not hitting the snow, not churning up the snow, just the belly of the aircraft just came to a gentle stop on this glacier, and they did not even realize they'd landed on it. I don't know if the story's actually true, but it's one of those kind of like urban legends of aviation. All right, we're up to 9 out of 12 minutes here, so we're looking for Ordalsvatnet Lake. Ordalsvatnet Lake. The long, narrow Ordalsvatnet Lake. So I don't see any long, narrow lakes around here. There's definitely some signs of life here. There's some people live around here, but we're definitely not Ordalsvatnet. And if anything, we're going to be a little bit late getting to it because the first part of our timing there, the first 2 to 3 minutes was on was at the climb speed, not necessarily accelerated to even the cruise climb speed. So we're looking for the long, narrow, thin Ordalsvatnet Lake. It could be over this next little rise here. There's a valley coming up here, so it could be in this valley. Do we make any sudden changes or keep going the same direction? 345. Preikestolen. Continue to the dizzying Preikestolen, also known as Pulpit Rock, a cliff that towers more than 1,000 feet above the waters of Leijsfjord beneath it. All right. So we're going to be looking for... See, there's a deep valley coming up here, so there's definitely some lakes coming up here somewhere. There could be a lake in this valley, or it could just be a narrow valley. It would be about the right time. Might be a little bit on the early side still. I wonder if over the next ridge here it's more likely. So there's there's not really much of a lake here. It's more of a flat valley bottom here with some farmland, unless that's the lake there. But we're early. If anything, we're early, and I would not expect to be early. I would expect to be late. So I would expect this is not the lake. I think it's going to be over this next rise. It looks like there is a big, deep valley coming up over here. I would estimate that that's going to be the lake we're looking for. I mean, that is a long, narrow lake there. There's no doubt about that. Or a series of lakes, but like I said, I think it's just a little too early. I don't know if we would have made this at 3,500, though. 4,500 is probably a good altitude. See, as we come over this next one, I think this is the lake we're looking for. Ordalsvatnet. See, I can see there's water there. I think this is going to be it. This is going to be the lake here. This makes more sense with the timing. It's definitely a long and narrow lake. Stop losing altitude. Over the high terrain, we can't really afford to lose all that much altitude. Yeah, this is it. I was right. Ordalsvatnet. This has got to be it. This is a long, narrow lake of Ordalsvatnet, and then we go to 345 heading. So I'm just going to dial in 345 there. The plane's going to apparently turn on its own. This makes more sense as Ordalsvatnet because the timing also works. Just a little over 12 minutes. Makes sense with our upwind leg that we had. All right, so the next one is 7 minutes to Preikestolen. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this because we're crossing it pretty much right now. So 7 minutes. 7 minutes to Preikestolen. Pulpit Rock. Shoulder harness must be worn while at pilot positions. For takeoff and landing, seat back must not be in full back position. Or this could be the lake too. It's another long, thin lake. There's a lot of long, thin lakes. I feel like that was the right one though. Hopefully. You can still see the ocean off there, but if we're going to get to another fjord, then it's obviously the ocean's going to have to swing back inwards. We're at about a minute. We got about 6 minutes to go here. We're at 7 minutes. We're looking for 6:55, 7 minutes. This is not a hugely long leg either. This is, once we get to Brickastolen, it's pretty much there. So, not too far to get to this one, but again, we're getting to some terrain where finding a place to build an airport would definitely be a challenge. You'd probably be looking to build it along river valleys, and yeah, there's another great story. One of my favorite books of all time is called "Fate is the Hunter" by Ernest Gann, and it is basically his memoir of his experience as a pilot, flying between the wars, through World War II, and even post World War II. A lot of focus on kind of the World War II era. But he doesn't focus on politics of it at all. It's just simply his experiences as a pilot flying in this era, and it's an absolutely beautiful read. I absolutely adore this book. It's my favorite book of. It's probably my favorite book of all time, and I've read it through at least 3 or 4 times. I could read it through any day. I could pick up. The nice thing is, like, the way he structured it so well. The whole book tells the arc of his career, but each chapter in and of itself is its own anecdote, its own story. Linked together, they describe the whole career, but you can read each one separately, and they're still fantastic. But what this reminds me, of course, is there was a story of them coming across during World War II, and there's a lot of ferrying going on of aircraft. And there's a naval base on the west coast of Norway that was at the far end of a fjord. So of course, the one day they're coming in, it's a low overcast day. They let down over the ocean because a lot of these bases did not necessarily have any approaches. Certainly in Norway, it may not be viable to have a radio range approach because they may not even be able to. You may not be able to receive it with these sheer rock walls on either side. You might not be able to receive a signal from very far away. So they kind of relied on like visual navigation to let down. So the one day, of course, they're coming across the ocean. There's a low overcast layer. They let down over the ocean. Under the overcast layer, it's like 500 feet, and like these rock walls here are 1,000 feet. So literally, there's just like a ceiling of cloud halfway up this fjord. You can't climb through because you can't follow the twists and turns of the fjord. All right, we're only at 4 minutes. We need 7 minutes, so I don't think this is the fjord we're looking for. This is not the fjord you're looking for. And so there's a story, of course, the one time they come up here and they're flying along and they see an opening, and it's a lot of dead reckoning back in the day. You set your heading, you set your track, and you hope the winds are pretty much as forecast so that you end up in the right place. So they're kind of flying towards the coast. They see this fjord in front of them. It kind of starts to narrow down, and they end up flying along it. And underneath the ceiling, they can't. They can't figure out if they're in the right fjord because there was no markers or anything. They all kind of look the same. So they're traveling along, and the airfield's at the end of this fjord. It's 20 miles down this fjord, but they're traveling down this fjord. They don't know if they're in the right one. And the trouble is, like, if there's not enough room to turn around. These, you look at this thing here, it's a mile across. There's no way to turn this bomber around in this fjord. So you're hoping you pick the right one because you also can't climb because you can't follow the contours of the terrain. The second you start climbing, you're not going to get a good climb rate. You're going to get a couple hundred feet per minute. You need to have several minutes of straight, and most of these fjords are not particularly straight. They twist and turn. So as soon as you're in the clouds, there's nothing to tell you where the terrain is. There's a good chance you're going to scrape the side of that fjord. You're going to miss a turn and scrape, or even just run right into the side of the fjord if you go up in the clouds. So they're kind of trapped, and they're just sweating bullets flying up this fjord, hoping that they're in the right one. There was one landmark which is about halfway down the fjord, about 10 miles up this 20-mile fjord. There was a shipwreck, and they're sitting there and they're counting the time, and they've gone past where they think the 10-mile point should be, and it's like there's no shipwreck. We're not we're not in the right place. We're not going to make it. And eventually, finally, they come around one more bend, and they do see it, and they manage to get to the end. But it just reminds me of the story, these deep, deep valleys like this here, where you have an airfield at the very end of it. And it's a great place to have an airbase because it's going to be really hard for anyone to sneak in there, especially if there's a low overcast condition. But yeah, just got me thinking about this. Looking at these things, you would not want to be trying to fly down this on instruments without being able to, in a cloud deck, without being able to see either side of this fjord in front of you. Okay, so we're coming up to 7 minutes. I wonder if this is pulpit rock here, because it certainly looks like a very steep drop. Preikestolen, also known as pulpit rock, a cliff that towers more than 1,000 feet above the waters of Leisfjord beneath it. And that does look like it could be a 1,000-foot drop. So I think this is pulpit rock here. I think we're in the right place here. Leisfjord. And then we fly 251 for 15 miles to another stadium, Viking Stadium. So we'll wait till we're right over Pulpit Rock, and then we'll take up this 251 heading here. And the Stollinger Airport, 251. So it's going to be a hard left turn here momentarily. It's going to be out there somewhere, isn't it? Pardon me. That's got to be Sola and the Stavanger Airport have got to be out there. There's obviously a built-up area over there. So, but this is yeah. Look at the size of these cliffs. They're not particularly well. The texture kind of doesn't work very well on the sides here. This is one thing that FS 2024 was supposed to improve, was when you get cliffs like this, it just kind of stretches the satellite texture down the side of the cliff, which just does not work very well. You need to have like a texture of the same resolution down the sides, but it just stretches the satellite image. It doesn't really work very well, so maybe you need a little bit of creativity there to help with it. Anyways, we're going to reset the timer. There goes the timer for Viking Stadium. We're looking for 5 minutes on the 251 heading. And I wonder if it might be time to consider letting down already. Just because we don't want to be caught high when we get to the airport. All right, so $51. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's take 5 inches off the manifold pressure so we can start a 500 foot per minute descent. All right, so we're looking for Viking Stadium, and then after Viking Stadium, another 3 miles, 3.7 miles to the Stavanger Airport. I think the airport might be up straight ahead there anyways. Anyways, we'll find it here. We're going to drop down to maybe 2,500 to see the stadium, and that'll put us at decent altitude to find the airport. I assume that's not it there. So the stadiums usually end up being built somewhere towards the edge of town, just because you need a large area of undeveloped land to try and put together a whole football stadium on a narrow stretch of land. Just doesn't work necessarily. Aviating without coffee. It just seems wrong. Just seems wrong somehow. So I'm thinking the stadium's got to be one of these kind of like bright spots here along the shoreline. On that far shoreline there. I'm thinking that one of those is probably the stadium, but we'll see when we get there. Yeah, we'll drop it down to about 2,500. That'll set us up for a reasonable descent. Definitely a nice airplane. And the Bonanza always was a nice airplane. It was a, out of the, the single engine piston, privately owned airplanes, it was definitely one of the more, what's the word I'm looking for here? It was definitely one of the more premium products. In the 1960s, the Bonanza was what like the Cirrus is today, like a very a fairly high-end product. You know, good speed, good numbers, comfortable interior for its day. I mean, you look at what Cirrus has done; like it's so much more like a luxury car. But at the time, like this is what a luxury car would look like too. Like again, you've got to go back 50 years to kind of see when the Bonanzas were first being built. That was kind of what they were targeting. So the original moniker, well, not the original moniker, but the moniker that was applied to the Bonanza after 5 to 10 years in service was, it unfortunately got the moniker of being the doctor killer, because there were a lot of doctors with a lot of extra disposable income. This was an affordable product for a doctor as a hobby. If you wanted to be a pilot, this is a great airplane because it could get you a long way. It was a powerful engine, get you a long way. So yeah, it became known as the doctor killer because unfortunately there were a number of doctors that got into accidents with their Bonanzas. I said I was going to level off at 2,500 and I did not. So let's level off here. And so it got that unfortunate moniker after several years in service because there were problems. There were reportedly problems with the tails getting overstressed, but it may have been the way that people were flying them. There's no guarantee that it was necessarily. I think I see the stadium there. I don't think there was anything necessarily wrong with the airplane itself, but the V-tails especially, they got the nickname of the Doctor Killer because you would get people who would get themselves in trouble. This is a very impressive airplane, so you might take this airplane and do things with it that you might not otherwise want to do. And is that the airport right past it there? So the airport, I think, is on a 233. Yeah, so that's the airport right past it there. So there's the stadium, there's Viking Stadion, and then there's the airport past it there. So I think what we'll do is we'll come down for a right downwind for the landing there. Yeah, because like having a very capable airplane with you know, at the time, of course, they didn't have the G1000 screens, but they had state-of-the-art avionics pack, so you could easily give yourself a false sense of security that, hey, I can handle anything because look at the airplane I'm flying. It's designed to handle anything. But just because the airplane can do it doesn't necessarily mean that you as a pilot have the skills to do it either. That was an issue. But yeah, because doctors were the only ones who were rich enough to be able to afford Bonanzas. They were kind of the high-end personal airplane at the time. All right, so there is Stavanger Airport. So we're going to land on the north runway here. We're just going to kind of set ourselves up for a bit of a wide right downwind here. And I think I might call it at this one. We've been doing this for about 2 hours now. We've gotten through 3 legs. It's not as many legs as kind of hoped for. It's going to take several streams to get through this whole thing, but it's definitely fun, and I really enjoy the challenge. I think this is one of the neatest things that Microsoft did with FS 2020 in terms of activities was these bush tours. They are really they're incredibly, for lack of a better word, neat. It really challenges your ability as a pilot. Can you fly this? Let's get the power back. Let's start going down and slowing down. Can you find these airports just based on these textual descriptions flying around this country? We've probably flown about 300 or 400 miles, and we've gotten to each airport. The first one was the most nerve-wracking. The second and third one are quite easy here, being along the coast. The first one was a little bit nerve-wracking. Just because I was not sure if we had gone in the right direction. Let's get approach flaps going here. I was concerned that we had not gone in the right direction. That was my concern. I thought maybe we had. Not even wrong direction, but like just that we were off the mark. But we ended up being pretty close on the mark. I never did find that village of Brecka, but the airport became quite obvious when we got close to it. All right, just losing a little bit more altitude before we swing around for a base here. Yeah, we're barely even. Going down pretty quickly here, maybe a little bit aggressively. And this is one of those things that I do kind of remember about the Bonanza was you did have to plan your decelerations. It takes time because you're at 160 knots. The airplane doesn't decelerate instantly. It never did. It was always like you had to plan your deceleration a little bit before you joined the circuit so that you would be at an appropriate speed in the circuit so that you could be at an appropriate speed on base. It was the first airplane that taught me to plan. A 172 is fairly straightforward. The difference between like the approach speed and the cruise speed is 30 or 40 knots. You could lose that pretty quickly just by pulling the power back to idle. But the Bonanza, it's not that she's slippery. It's not that she gets away from you, but she does need, there's gear down. She does need planning. If you come in full hot at 160 knots into the circuit, you're probably not going to be able to decelerate on base in time for landing. May have started that turn to final a little early. It's okay, we're still trying to lose some speed as well. I think now's a good time as any for full flap and start getting some power back in. Make sure and prop full. Targeting 85. So we gotta get some power in there to keep it there now. And we are high. I realize we're high, but this thing will actually descend quite nicely. Okay, we got 3 green, we got the full flap. Alright, and then we gotta find a good place to stop here. Is there a parallel taxiway I can stop on? There is, so let's see if we can do that. So that we're set up for our next leg. Yeah, there's a parallel taxiway here, so we'll set up for the next leg. And I think I'm going to pull the plug here. I think that's enough for the day. It's been fun. It's been tons of fun. I've really enjoyed this. This is a it's been a really fun opportunity. I do enjoy the pilot's life. When I get into it and when I start doing it, I really enjoy it. Sometimes I don't dread it, but like there's so much effort that goes into it, and it's such a large piece of chunk of time every time I do it that it can feel intimidating sometimes to try and set these things up. But this was just for fun. That's all this was for. This was just for fun. So I'm happy to kind of do this and just have a bit of a fun day. So I don't want to push it too long. I think that's enough for me for today. I don't think I want to do another leg today. But I hope you guys had fun, and I know I had fun. And there's I feel incredibly satisfied, and you know, that I've gotten the airplane to these 3 airports. We've done these 3 legs. They're fairly long legs, but we've done these 3 legs, and I've gotten the airplane to these 3 legs without having to cheat in any way, shape, or form. Just purely relying just on this textual navlog that Asobo has provided. It's got me to each of these 3 airports. So that makes me happy. It makes me proud. Like you know, you can do it. It's like I said. To me, this is the as close as you get to like a scavenger hunt in aviation. It's trying to just navigate just based on these descriptions, based on these navlogs, and nothing else. Here's some distance, some times. Can you get from point A to point B? And I'm happy to say that it appears that the answer is yes. Where's the threshold here? I think this is the threshold here. So we're just going to come over here. This is the hole right over here. And we're just going to stop right before it here and save it there for next time. Right before runway 36. This is going to place as any. Stop. And boom. Leg completed. Another 37 minutes in the book, and that's good, I think, for today. I don't think I want to drag it out anymore, but yeah, that was tons of fun. That was really a lot of fun. So I hope that we get to do it again soon. Hopefully next week. I think I'll have time next week to do the next couple of legs. I wish I could go back to the leg screen, but I can't. It just takes me right back to this next one. This next one's another 32 minutes, 95 miles. Going up the coast here. But yeah, out of 14 legs, what have we done? 3? It's gonna be a bit of a slog here. We've done about 2 and something hours worth of flying time out of 7. So yeah, we're just not quite a third of the way there, but we're close. I think the other legs must get closer. So if we go to the main menu, I wish we could go back. Oh, we can't go back. Okay, let's go back here and just click on it here. 21% completed. So we've done legs 1, 2, and 3, and it looks like they are the longest legs. They did feel like they were a bit of a slog each. The next one, definitely 32, 28, 35, 22, 14. Definitely starting to get into shorter legs overall. A few long legs here and there, but yeah, so we'll see if we can get this done in 3 streams. I don't know if we'll quite finish it in 3 streams, but that is enough for me today. We made it as far as Sorkjosen. No, Sorkjosen is the end. Sorry, we made it as far as I don't even know. It's to Sola. That's where we made it to here. That's where it shows you Sola. Next on our list will be Sola to Flesland. But yeah, I think that's enough for me for today. That was definitely fun. I'm glad we made it. Glad you guys were able to tune in and enjoy it. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll definitely finish off this bush tour over the next couple of weeks and then get ready to start another season of A Pilot's Life live on Twitch. But in the meantime, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and whatever you're doing. And we'll see you guys all next time.